بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. In the previous lecture of Tafseer, we discussed the opening two verses of Surah Fatihah, and we concluded that the attribute of Allah Ar-Rahim, very merciful, in Surah Al-Fatihah refers to the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that will be manifest on the Day of Judgment in the form of jaza and saza, in the form of reward and punishment, because it will be completely void of wisdom and even the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that after nurturing the whole universe and the whole creation for that matter based upon His rahmah, His mercy, and then not reaping the harvest, so to speak, after nurturing the whole creation, not rewarding or punishing. So it's like the analogy of the farmer that was given, who plows his field, he sows the seeds, and then after the harvest is ready, doesn't reap the harvest and makes it go to waste. This would be completely foolish and pointless, and of course void of wisdom. So it is important in the manifestation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy, and to make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy manifest, there must be a system of reward and punishment. There must be a system or a day when everyone will be recompensed and the mercy of Allah will be complete by separating the righteous from the evil ones, from the believers from the disbelievers. So there must be a day when everyone will be given their reward or punishment, will be given their recompense in full. So the third verse pays homage to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, linking this to Maliki Yawmiddin, the master of the Day of Judgment. And another qira'ah, it is Maliki Yawmiddin, the king of the Day of Judgment. So both are correct, both are mutawatir. So in Riwayah Hafs we have Maliki Yawmiddin, in Riwayah Warsh we have Maliki Yawmiddin, and both are established recitations. The word Malik has been derived from the root word milk, which signifies possessing a thing in such a way that one has the right and the full power to dispose of it as one likes. And the word deen signifies requital. So the phrase master of the day of requital implies total mastery on the day of requital, but there is no mention of the things or the thing to which this mastery or possession will imply on the Day of Judgment. So to answer this question, Allama Zamakhshari rahimahullah mentions in his commentary Al-Kashaf, the phrase makes a general reference to cover everything on the Day of Judgment. This is to say, on the Day of Requital, the mastery over everything that exists and has ever existed will belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. Before proceeding, there's a couple of questions, inshallah, through the aid of which further clarification will be achieved. Firstly, what is this day of requital? What is the Yawmuddin? Secondly, Allah being the master of everything, even today, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the master of everything, even today, as much as on the day of judgment, on the day of requital. Why does this verse specifically mention the day of requital? The day of requital, the day of judgment, is the day appointed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to recompense good and evil deeds. The world is Darul Amal, is the field of the place of action, of deeds. This is not a place where a person is rewarded or punished to the complete extent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the place of action. Allah Azza wa Jal created the dunya, the world, as a place to sow the seeds, if you will. And the mere fact that a man may appear strong, healthy, wealthy, and powerful does not necessarily reflect Allah's pleasure upon that person. It doesn't mean that doesn't necessarily mean that Allah is pleased with him. Similarly, if someone is struggling in life, is weak, poor, and is suffering hardships and pain, it does not necessarily indicate that that person is going through the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as an object of Allah's wrath and punishment. So even in the case of the worldly life, as by way of an example, a person works in a factory or an office extremely hard, long hours, sweating away, and if you argued with him that just leave this all this hassle and just relax, he would argue with you that and express before you his deepest displeasure. Why? Because at the end of the month, at the end of the month, at the end of 30 days, after toil and labor, he sees his reward, or his jaza, his recompense, in the form of the monthly wage. So in the dunyawi life, we have this. Similarly, after working hard for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for his pleasure in this life, sowing the seeds, if Allah Azza wa Jal doesn't give us a day in which we can reap our harvest and be rewarded, then this is against the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy to be complete, there must be a day of recompense, a day of reward, and also the likes punishment. Many times in the dunya we see justice isn't done, and a person is treated unfairly and justly, even in the courts sometimes, in man-made systems, in the man-made system of Western law. We see much injustice done. People are punished unjustly. So there must be a day when true justice is established, in the form of the Day of Judgment, when the real and true guilty one is punished. This also is a manifestation of Allah Azza wa Jal, not only His justice but His mercy as well, that for those that are victims of injustice, that justice is established for them. And many times we see in the worldly life, of course, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in short, gives us physical well-being, luxury in this life, and at the same time we have sorrow and suffering. These are tests from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as much as a person is given comfort as well as hardship, in both situations one is being tested by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And sometimes for a person to take heed, some form of punishment or reward on the other side of the coin is given in this worldly life. Sometimes in the form of barakah, a person experiences barakat and blessings in this worldly life, which is not even an iota compared to what he or she will receive in the hereafter. And sometimes a person is given a taste of a bit of punishment so that that person can steer back to the straight path. And this serves as a warning from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly talks about this in the Quran Kareem. وَلَنُذِيقَنَّهُم مِّنَ الْعَذَابِ الْأَدْنَى دُونَ الْعَذَابِ الْأَكْبَرِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ. And we shall surely let them taste a nearer punishment in this world before the greater punishment in the other world, so that they may return to the right path. كذلك العذاب والعذاب الآخرة أكبر لو كانوا يعلمون. Such is the punishment, and the punishment of the other world, and the punishment of the other world is certainly greater, only if they knew. So this is just a small taste of the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to warn us at times that you need to seriously turn back to the straight path, which is of course nothing compared to the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the barakat of this life and the rewards of this life are nothing compared to the rewards in the hereafter. Going back to what I said, so the sufferings of this world, or as even its joys, are sometimes a trial and sometimes a punishment, depending on the individual, but never a full recompense, because the world is in of itself transitory, it is temporary. And what really counts is the joy of suffering that will be endured forever in the hereafter, and which one will come to know of in the other world beyond this world. Given the fact that good or evil deeds are not fully recompensed in this world, and the rational and just principle that good and evil not being equal in value, every deed should be rewarded or punished according to its nature, it readily follows that beyond this world there should be another world where every deed, big or small, good or evil, is to be judged and then justly rewarded or punished. This the Holy Quran calls Al-Akhirah, the world to come, or Al-Qiyam, doomsday, or the day of judgment, or Yawmuddin, the day of requital. The whole idea has been explained by the Quran Kareem in itself. ما يستوي الأعمى والبصير والذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات ولا المسيء قليلا ما تتذكرون إن الساعة لآتية لا ريب فيها ولكن أكثر الناس لا يؤمنون, which translates, the blind are not equal with the seeing, nor the wrongdoers with those who believe and do good. Yet you seldom reflect. The hour of retribution is sure to come, no doubt about it, yet most people do not believe. Now we come to the second question of the two that was mentioned. That is, who's the master? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being the master of everything today, as much as on the day of requital, the day of judgment. Why does the verse specifically mention the day of requital, the day of judgment? It should be obvious on a little reflection to everyone that the real master of every particle of dust in the universe and the creation can only be He who has created and nurtured it, whose mastery over everything is complete, having neither a beginning nor an end. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala neither has a beginning nor an end, and He covers the living. His mastery covers the living and the dead, the apparent and the hidden, the seen and the unseen. On the contrary, the mastery of man is extremely limited. He has a beginning and an end. The mastery of man is confined to the mere 60 or 70 years of this life. Before that, he was nothing. After that, he will have nothing to his name. It has a before when it did not exist, and an after when it will exist no more. And man's mastery extends only to the living, not to the dead, and to the seen and not the unseen, to the external aspects of things, not to the internal. All this would show to those who can see the real master of the whole universe, Allah, not only on the day of requital but even in this world, is no other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then why should this verse specify the day of requital? The verse in Surah Al-Mu'min, Al-Ghafir, serves as a commentary on the question and discussion, on the phrase and the discussion, and provides a clear account of the day of requital. The real and complete mastery over everything no doubt belongs to Allah alone, even in this world. Yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through His beneficence, through His compassion and wisdom, has granted a kind of metaphorical, imperfect, temporary, a very superficial mastery to man as well. And the Sharia, in laying down laws for worldly affairs, has given due consideration to man's limited right of ownership. But even today we see in possessing land or property, money or power, which has been given to him by way of trial as a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, man has always been prone to be drunk with pride and vanity. This is very common. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to man regarding himself as the master of the day of judgment, or the king of the day of judgment, more comprehensive is the master of the day of judgment, is a warning to man who is intoxicated in his forgetfulness, negligence, heedlessness, and self-conceit. All his relationships with things and men are only short-lived, and that there shall come a day when masters will be masters no more, kings will not have their kingdom anymore, and slaves will no more be slaves, when no one will own anything, even in appearance, nor even metaphorically, and only reality will exist. the ownership and mastery, apparent as well as real, of the whole universe will be seen to belong to none but Allah. The Holy Quran says, يَوْمَ هُمْ بَارِزُونَ لَا يَخْفَى عَلَى اللَّهِ مِنْهُمْ شَيْءٍ لِمَنِ الْمُلْكُ الْيَوْمِ لِلَّهِ الْوَاحِدِ الْقَهَّارِ الْيَوْمَ تُجْزَى كُلُّ نَفْسٍ بِمَا كَسَبَتْ لَا ظُلْمَ الْيَوْمِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ سَرِيعُ الْحِسَابِ. The day they will present themselves before Allah, and nothing of theirs will remain hidden from Allah, even apparently. Whose is the kingdom today? Of Allah alone, the One, the Mighty. Today everyone will be recompensed for what he has done. Today no one will be wronged. Allah's reckoning is surely swift. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the tawfiq to take heed before the time comes when it's too late. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the tawfiq to reflect on the words of Allah and to sow the seeds today while we have time, so that we can reap the harvest tomorrow of our deeds, of the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم ولكافة المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم.